Well, I'm happy to have this opportunity to talk about my involvement for the with the Aspen Center for Physics, which has been a very important institution for me. I was able to come here in 1981 when I was still a graduate student because my advisor worked it out, whose name is John Giannopoulos, was here officially. And he worked it out that if I came and stayed in one of the rooming houses here and they didn't give me housing, that I could sort of share his desk. And I was doing my thesis on the problem of disordered electrons in one dimension, so-called localization problem, which was being discussed that summer. And actually, Giannopoulos, my advisor, was not a big expert on that problem. So it was really important for me to have the opportunity to talk to the real world's experts on the problem here, which I did that summer. And some of them are extremely eminent physicists, like David Thouless, who has come here many times and has won the Wolf Prize and is one of my idols. And he's sort of a little bit of reserved Englishman. He's definitely an Englishman, and he's a little bit reserved. And so it took me a little courage to go into his office in Hilbert and introduce myself and say, look, I'm thinking about this problem of one-dimensional localization for my thesis, and I'm really trying to figure out how things could be observed experimentally, how we could explain this and that experiment. He, in 1977, had written a famous paper, which actually I think, probably is almost a Nobel caliber paper, on this topic that I was writing my thesis on. And so if there's anyone in the world that could help me, he could. And we had a very good discussion. We ended up co-authoring a paper. He invited me to Seattle, and we've been lifelong friends. And eventually that, even though that particular paper kind of was not the most significant on my career, it led me on a process of research that actually did lead to one of my most important, if not my most important, scientific papers, which is definitely the reason I was able to get tenure at Yale and keep going in the field successfully. So the Aspen Center for Physics in that summer was absolutely critical, and the environment here was such a wonderful situation for me as a graduate student, because I had gone to a couple of conferences on localization and disordered electron systems. And you couldn't talk to the famous people because they were giving their talk, they were leaving, they were coming, they were surrounded by a virtual cloud of people who wanted to talk to them as much as you did and were better known than you were. And so, I had not had that opportunity. And so this was really special. I really thank my advisor and also the flexibility of the Physics Center for allowing me as a graduate student to hang around. And I actually came back then in 83 and 84. In 83, I don't remember whether I was official yet. I might not have been. I might still have been hanging on with, paying my own housing and kind of coming in and hanging around the library. I do distinctly remember Sally Mensimer saying, we can't put you up, there's a Nobel laureate in your room or something like that. Or, like I'd been in this room and then I got kicked out or something. I don't remember whether that was 83 or 84. I think it was probably 83, because it was not the first time I was here. But I got along really well with Sally, and that was very important in those days. I think she liked me, even though I was sort of horning in a little bit as a graduate student. And then I met, besides Thouless, I met Hide Fukuyama from Japan, who was a great physicist, who I wrote a very important paper with later. Patrick Lee, who I wrote my most important papers with, and is here this year. It's nice to see him again. Phil Anderson, Elihu Abrams, all the great people in the field I basically got to know very early in my career, and it was really due to the center. In 84, I was official finally as a postdoc, and it was actually our extended honeymoon. I'd gotten married in June 2nd. We'd gone for a week to the Caribbean, and then like 2 weeks later, we came to Aspen for like 3 or 4 weeks. And my wife loved it. We went to the Aspen Club and tried to do aerobics with all the people that were used to altitude and did it day in and day out. And couldn't keep up at all, which was really humiliating for me when I was only 29 or 30. But anyway, we liked it a lot. It wasn't that expensive then. It was a lot. It was just a wonderful situation, and so that was sort of the beginning of this sense that this was a unique and wonderful institution, and that Aspen was a lovely place to try to get people to come in the summer. So then was this transition period in my life where I did get a faculty job at Yale. We moved, we had babies, and it didn't seem all that practical to come here for a while. So I didn't get to come here till about '89, when there was another workshop here. And it was also a very significant workshop in my professional career. And I think I actually helped organize it. I've sort of vaguely forgotten, but I'm pretty sure I was an organizer of that workshop. Sometime shortly thereafter that, in the early '90s, I had always been very friendly with Tom Applequist because, of course, he's at Yale. He was one of the people that helped recruit me to Yale, and he's just a wonderful guy, both a great physicist and also just listens and is sincere and no fooling around. He says what he means in a straightforward way. So he was, I guess still is, but has been, was getting very centrally involved in the center, and probably was something like president then. So they needed money for certain things, and just at that time, my mother, whose name was Sue Smart, was from the Smart family of Chicago. David and Alfred Smart started the magazines Esquire and GQ, and Alfred was my grandfather. I'm actually named Alfred Douglas Stone, but I go by my middle name, Douglas. They had started a foundation that didn't have that much money in the 50s, but by the end of the roaring 90s, they had a reasonable amount of money. And my mother was on the board, but she had to step down for health reasons. And at some point, my brother came on the board, and it became clear that we could solicit proposals and they would look kindly on them. So it started with a relatively small, I don't even remember what the exact excuse was, whether it was buying computers or something for the center, of like $25,000. But then it was the capital campaign was announced, and I looked into the possibility that the Smart Foundation would be able to make a rather large gift for this over many years, because it still wasn't that big a foundation, and they weren't able to give, say $1 million in 1 year. At least they wouldn't do it at my behest. But they might make a multi-year commitment. And I felt that, first, that this was something that had been very important to me, and indirectly had been very important to my mother, because she was very proud of me, and this had really helped me establish myself as a physicist. And it also, the kind of egalitarian environment of everybody collaborating sort of on the same level, whether you were a postdoc or a Nobel laureate, was also, something I felt strongly about. So I thought this was the first major grant that I asked them to fund on my behalf, so to speak, when I had solicited. And it was still quite reasonable. I mean, you got a very nice building. I think the total contribution from the Smart Foundation after, including everything, was $750,000. So it was a fair amount. It was something like, I don't know, the whole thing was 1.8 million or something. So it was a significant amount. But still, to get a beautiful building that's getting so much use for that, when I see some of the things that they fund that, for that amount of money. So I think it was certainly well deployed funds by the Smart Family Foundation. And also, I remember being absolutely elated when I saw the new design and actually experienced it with the moving of Hilbert Hall and the reorientation of the campus so that you can actually see that way, the beautiful view. So just really, really brilliant. And it was sort of dedicated on a beautiful summer day. And my mother had passed away by the time it was completed. She unfortunately got cancer fairly young, in her 60s, and had died. So I was very sad that she couldn't be there, but Ray Smart, the president of the foundation, came, and I read a little poem that she had written. She was a poet, an accomplished, published poet, so I read one of her poems, and it was really a great moment for me, and I couldn't be happier with the way that whole episode turned out. I think I became a member in maybe '93, and I think we've only missed one summer since then. '94, we definitely didn't come because there was something in Europe I had to go to for most of a month. The kids have done everything from, being babysat to being babysitters to now being even older. They've gone, they've gone from loving hiking to hating hiking to back to loving hiking, with the parents, of course. We are fortunate that our teenager, we have 15 and an 18-year-old, and they actually still are willing to come. And a lot of the kids that age are no longer able to come, or wanting to come, rather. And so we've been here basically every year, solidly since '94, and there's probably been one at most where we have not come. And I've been a trustee, and I've done all the different jobs you can do here. I was a scientific secretary, I was the program secretary. Well, I haven't been the president or chairman of the board, but other than that, and I've been happy to spend that time, and I anticipate continuing to spend that time. And now there are some new things going on with better connection with the Aspen Institute, which I took the executive seminar last year myself, which I'm probably the only physicist that's done that. And I know pretty well one of the people there, Elliot Gerson, through another connection, who organized those seminars. So I think some of these things that I've started to do recently, popular science and so on, are going to be well done here at the center with some connection with these other institutions. So I'm excited about that. I think it's a scientifically very, very exciting context here, and I've told about how it affected my own life, but I also have some fond memories of, for example, having dinner with Bob Laughlin and Dick Prange in '83. I was here without any family or anything, and we bachelored it up with spaghetti and talked physics the whole time. And that was just when Laughlin was working on his Nobel Prize-winning work. And I remember just kind of listening at the door while he was being basically beaten on by, some of the world's most eminent condensed matter physicists about what was wrong with what he was saying, and then that turned out to be his Nobel Prize-winning work, although it was at a half-formed stage. So, those are special memories, and I think young people, I hope the next generations that have been coming have those experiences also. And one thing I have done is I've tried to form working groups with postdocs that I'm working with and bring them here early so they can be involved, and we've had great moments that way. Osh Clerk, one of my recent postdocs, proposed to his now wife, I guess at Electric Pass or Buckskin. He found out that in Colorado, it's legal apparently to do that. You just go up there, you have some piece of paper, and no, he didn't propose. He got married. I'm sorry, that's the important part. Propose you can do anywhere, that I know. But you can actually legally get married just by signing some piece of paper. You don't even need a witness, apparently. So they worked this all out. They went to the town hall or wherever it was and got the piece of paper, and they went up to Buckskin, and then they signed it, and they were officially legally married. And then he came down and we were the first people he told that he had gotten married. So that was kind of cool. And that was just 2 years ago here. And 3 years ago, another postdoc I worked with, Philippe Jacot, who was from Switzerland, took us up on the mountain and did raclette over the open fire, and the kids loved it. And it was, so, and he's very excited to come back here at some point. He's now moved to Arizona, so hopefully he will have some opportunities. So I think it's a great place for young people to get excited about science, and much less hierarchical, and the real stuff goes on, and not as much of the posturing. When you go to conferences, you can give your talk and escape, but here you're trapped, and so you really have to be able to defend your ideas, and also people really make progress the way they would at their home institution, as opposed to just these little sound bites that you get at conferences. So I think I just wanted to mention that.